Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined by Dr. Rana Al Falaki, who is a specialist periodontist. She is the creator of the Nail It Leadership book, which you can see in the back. It's also a well-being system. And she's the author of Women Who Want More. And today we're going to be deep diving into stress management for the high-achieving women. Welcome, Rana.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a delight. I've been on so many podcasts over the years where I kind of stepped completely away from dentistry. And now it's like, wow, I get to come back and I get to tell my story and I get to infuse people also with life struggles of, I'm not just this person who's always smiley. I've been through my own trauma, but I can really help my profession through that as well. So I'm really excited. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being here. I feel like this is going to be a therapy session for me and all the high-achieving women who listen to this podcast, and men, actually. I had lots of men message recently saying, me too. So, yes, thank you, Ryan. And this is like a no-fluff podcast, so I'm just going to go straight in there with the first question, because I was doing some stalking last night and I realized you are very open. You are the smiley, bubbly person, but you are very open, and you're open about being outwardly successful, but having been inwardly stressed for many, many years. And when you look back and you think about that time now, what were your really early signs that your high-achieving, go-get-it lifestyle was actually costing you your well-being? Because I feel like I might be there right now. So, yeah.
We have the opportunity for so many wake-up calls, don't we? And so often we are so busy and we've had it instilled in us, be it by our parents, be it by our partners, sometimes even be it by our children, because we have to be this heroic person for them when they're old enough to recognize it. So it gets instilled in us that we are supposed to be a certain way. And so we can get so many wake-up calls, but we end up ignoring them and we bat them away, and it's like, I don't have time for even that, so let me just carry on with this idea that we are probably going to be invincible, right? It's the same as a periodontist. I might tell them, look, you've got periodontal disease, you're at risk of heart disease and diabetes. They don't care about that. It's like, well, I don't have time for that, and that's something that's down the line, so let me kick it down the line and deal with it when it actually happens. So we all know when we talk to our patients how we have to find that little crux, don't we, about what is going to make you make this change at this particular moment in time. And the reality is people don't usually change until the pain gets so bad that the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same.
Yeah, that's it.
And so for me, I had plenty of wake-up calls. I'd gotten, my relationship broke down, so I'd gotten divorced. I have this scene in my kitchen feeling like my life was just falling apart, and my kids were young and they were stressed out. And I just remember taking a breath in my kitchen thinking, I can't wait to divorce you as well, which is an awful thing to say about my kids. But I just needed to escape. I was just going to explode. And then the only thing that could keep me going was my dentistry. And then I got to a point where even that was about to fall apart, because I had this patient who in the end was also stalking me and constantly threatening to. This is when I was on my international career and I was going around the world, and at the same time I was running the practice, and she just wouldn't let up with the non-stop threats endlessly that I would be there till 9 o'clock at night replying to yet another email and yet another email, and nobody could help me. I just felt helpless. And even my defense union said to me, you haven't actually done anything wrong, so there's nothing more we can do. We can't do anything financially to make this woman go away. If she wants to go to the GDC, you're just going to have to deal with it and we'll help you. But when you just desperately want someone to just take it out of your hands and to look after you and to do something for you, right? And it doesn't, and somehow they can't. And you just, in the end, you think you want to clone yourself, because that's the only answer. Yet, technology hasn't gone on that way. So I had so many wake-up calls, nearly end of a career, end of a marriage, my wantaholic syndrome, the days when there wasn't a win, when there suddenly wasn't something to massage my ego, when there wasn't another speaking opportunity or, another country to travel to lecture to, or another award to win, or whatever it was, I would feel empty inside. And I'd suddenly find myself kind of itching, like, oh God, I don't know what to do with myself, because I was, like I said, a wantaholic. It's this addiction to needing the dopamine hit, because that was the only thing that was keeping me going. And on the surface, it was the only thing that really was going to give me any sense of self-worth. The only problem is I didn't realize at the time that I didn't have that self-worth. And outwardly successful, anybody who met me would have thought I was this super confident practice owner, global pioneer, and most confident person ever, and truly genuine in my compassion and my empathy. But inside, gone. So you ask about the early warning signs. I mean, those are some of the things. Do you have a little sense of discontent? Do you have a little sense of dis-ease? And that's when I say, because there is no ease in disease, which is what it's going to lead to.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's what it led to. It got to the point where I had heart palpitations when I was at rest trying to work on patients, and it got worse and worse. And I could see on my watch, my heart rate was going over 100 beats a minute, and I just threw it under the carpet still. My practice manager at the time, who was also one of my best friends, kept saying, Rana, you really need to go to the doctor. And I'm like, yeah, but there's no time for that. There's no time, right? I've got kids, I've got this, there's no time. It's like me telling patients they're going to get heart disease. Yes, it will happen. When it happens, I'll deal with it, right? Until eventually, in my practice, it's a very small hill that I used to have to walk up that would normally take me 10 minutes to go home. And I couldn't do it. I literally got to the point where one leg after the next could barely move. And then I just couldn't walk. And my kids were waiting in a playground, the school bus to drop them off. I had nobody to call because I had never let anybody see my vulnerable side. I had a boyfriend at the time, and I thought there's absolutely no way I can ring him. He can't see this weakness in me because I'm supposed to be this amazing person. And I sat on a wall completely out of breath, unable to walk for about an hour, until eventually I managed to stand up and then just get one foot in front of the next and get home. And then eventually I did go and see a cardiologist eventually. And when I went back to him with the usual, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm fine, aren't I? And then the massive clangor of not so sure about that, and gave me this diagnosis, told me to go home and read on this website about this condition, which was something called POTS, so postural tachycardia syndrome. It's to do with your autonomic nervous system that doesn't function in the right way. And I read this, and there were people like me on this site, people who were really high achievers, and people who loved to hike mountains and were really active, all the stuff I'd done, whose lives had literally been stopped by this condition. They couldn't get up, they couldn't do anything. It said you'd have to live in a bungalow because you won't be able to climb stairs. And I just bought a townhouse. And that was my final wake-up call. That was my final, okay, maybe I really do finally need to start listening, because I need to be there for my kids. I haven't divorced them. I know what I want in life, and I actually know what is the most important thing to me. And I can't just be this person for everybody else if I'm really no good to anyone. And my kids loved it. I couldn't even get angry with them, otherwise I would end up on the floor. And I used to leave patients in the middle of operating, and they'd be like, oh, where's she gone? And we'll find her on the floor in the staff room in a minute. That's how bad it got. Until days when, I couldn't get to work because I couldn't get up. And I'd have days when, if ever there was emotional stress, that was it. I was floored. I could not get up and walk across the room to go and get a TV remote control, even without being exhausted. I felt like I was a 90-year-old woman who was like an invalid, and all I was doing was using force to try and show up to work. So that was my eventual turning point to it's everything that I've created in the Nail It system to reform myself to then actually still be a really high performer, but so much is more genuine because I flow with complete energy now instead of using force and fighting against it.
God, you left me speechless. Do you know what I struggle with is I myself am like that. And they talk about burnout, you don't enjoy what you're doing anymore. And I'm like, no, but I do. My mindset, I can do everything. I really enjoy it. I'm doing it all. But sometimes lately I've noticed my body is saying no. And is there this mind, like I've read about it, I've heard about it, but you've probably now experienced it, the mind-body link. Like, what is that? Like, your brain is saying you can do it. You feel like you can do it. There's so much you want to do, but your body's like, nope. Like, why is that happening? Why did that happen to you, essentially? Why does this happen to high-achieving people?
I mean, 100%. Your body will shut down. I mean, sometimes you have days, don't you, where your brain is screaming, just stop, just stop. It's screaming at you. You can't bring yourself to stop, so you go through the motions. Look, eventually something is going to happen. You are going to get cancer. You're going to get heart disease. Your nervous system is going to break down. You know, the most severe forms of burnout are exactly that your whole nervous system, your body shuts down. You can go into major organ failure. People use this word burnout the same way as people talk about having the flu.
Yes, everyone's got burnout.
Do you have a cold, a bad cold, which actually you can still feel pretty rubbish, or do you have the flu? So actually, are you exhausted and are you getting warning signs that you need to do something? And actually the earliest signs of true burnout are disengagement. It's not lack of productivity. And if anything, the more higher achievers are really productive when they're suffering from burnout. But the reason what happens is you're using all your force. So then a day later or 2 days later, then you come crashing down because you just don't have anything left in the tank. So the mind body is massive. We talk about how to train our mind and how to train our brain and neuroplasticity. But when we can train our brain to train our body. But what's happened is we've had a lifetime of training our brain to train our body in the wrong way. Completely turn it around. We have to train our brain to train our body to be healthy as opposed to be unhealthy. And usually, most of the time, we're feeding our brain with habits, self-talk, addictions. And when I talk about addictions, we're behavioral addictions and the addiction, basically the habit of being yourself, to train yourself to be unwell. And if your body doesn't like it, it will absolutely shut down. You go into adrenal fatigue. It means you can't lose weight. You don't have the energy for anything. You have lethargy. Your nervous system shuts down. You could lose sensation in your fingers, in your hands. None of this is good for a dentist. So yeah, mind-body connection is absolutely massive. And what we know, what stress does to the immune system. So it does stuff to us behaviorally, in that there are two mechanisms for why stress causes illness. One is obviously behavior. So if we take a patient, for example, they might grind their teeth more, they might smoke and so on and so forth. They don't eat as healthily. We don't exercise. We all know that, right? So we're not going to be as healthy. And then our body is in an inflammatory state and in oxidative stress, which means we age and we create inflammation in our body. But from a direct link, it does a massive thing to our inflammation, to our CD8, our CD4, our killer cells, our natural killer cells. If you're trying to get pregnant and you're not getting pregnant and you have a test and you realize you've got inflammation in your body and a load of killer cells and natural killer cells, which is a common reason for repeated miscarriages, which is certainly what happened to me, 5 of them, then, no, I'm really lucky to have 3 children. But all of this stuff, it's caused by stress. Cancer's caused by stress. You might have a genetic predisposition to something. You're not necessarily going to get it unless the gene gets turned on. And it's usually stress. So when we talk about habit change, it's changing the habit of you because you've had a lifetime of it so far and it's all you know. And dental school doesn't help with that in the way that it pushes you and teaches you.
So I've got an Oura ring. So I bought it a while back and then I just bought it for fun. Only now, when I start noticing my body's not liking the way my mind operates, I'm like, okay, now let me look at the stats and take them seriously. It's saying, I'm not sleeping well, my readiness is poor, something about HIV I need to look into is not good. And then there's some issues about stress. And I don't necessarily feel stressed when the ring is saying I'm stressed. So I have a feeling that I think you've spoken before about living on adrenaline. And, I remember when I was reading up about you, you were talking about it becoming normal and us not realizing it's happening. So I think that's me as well, as many listeners probably are, that we don't know what normal feels like. What does relaxed feel like? So I don't know, is there a way to kind of get in tune with our bodies to understand or for us to reprogram, we need to understand what normal feels like. And a lot of us don't. So how do we get ourselves to feel what normal is?
Absolutely. I mean, we don't even know how to shut down, right? It's like, oh, I don't have any work to do on a Sunday, but I really don't know what to do with myself. And it's interesting what you say about your HRV. So anyone who doesn't know that, it's your heart rate variability, which is one of your biggest actual markers of stress. So when you're actually really healthy, and it's a huge marker of longevity, of you living a long, long, healthy life. So when your HRV is low, yeah, that is really, really bad news, warning sign for you, right? And it's hilarious because my Aura Ring, the days I do clinical dentistry and I don't feel stressed at all, I'm there for hours operating on my patients. I do lasers, it's all minimally invasive surgery, and I get on with my patients and I have a nice time. But I tell you, when I go home, my stress peak, it's been at the peak. It's just like you've had like 5 hours of stress today and only half an hour of restorative time. So I didn't feel stressed though. So it's exactly what you're saying, because we don't know the norm.
It's like I've never hit 30 minutes restored, by the way. I'm trying to figure out. There's days where I'm 0 minutes restored. I'm like, what is this? The ring is broken. Stop paying attention to it. I was like, this is just making stuff up. I'm feeling happy, okay? But I think HRV is saying I'm not.
Well, yeah, well, you are happy, but you're not joy and peace, which is the difference, right? That's the difference, because happy is just a transient state. So your question was, how do we find out actually what normal is? Now, that doesn't mean, your norm doesn't mean you have to sit and vegetate on the sofa and watch Netflix all day long.
Yeah, I've tried it.
Yeah. And you'll be like, wait, but I've got to pick up my phone and I've got to do this and I've got to do that, because I just, there's too much to do. And because you don't know how to switch off. It doesn't mean you have to have a holiday, because to be honest, a holiday is just a quick fix. But what you have to do is some self-reflection, really, because you have to reflect on, what is this really costing me? And a lot of the time, say if I'm working with a client and we're looking at limiting beliefs, some of the ways we look at challenging those limiting beliefs. So a limiting belief is something like you've got a belief system and it's limiting you in some way. So for us, if we think, oh yeah, I'm a mum, therefore I can't do X, Y, Z. Well, you know what? That's a limiting belief, because you can actually do anything you like.
Yes, we are free.
We are free. So we've got to change that limiting belief. So one of the things I would do is I would ask my client to, go and find the evidence to the contrary. So go and find a load of other mothers who have achieved and succeeded and run businesses and had a very full balanced life. And there are going to be some people out there. So go and find the evidence to the contrary, and then start role modeling yourself, because role modeling, finding a mentor, is a really important way to do that. So how do you know, how can you discover what normal is exactly, it's that limiting belief. It's go and find someone who, at least on the surface, and then dig deeper, right, to say, is it really true? Are they just showing up? So go and find other people who seem to have all of that, and then do your stalking, right? Go and do your investigation to understand truly, okay, how do they do that? So you can then role model yourself on them.
Okay, that's one way. But I usually find that those that look like they are doing a bajillion things are doing them half-assed. Like, you can't do everything. I really believe you can't do everything. And everyone says, how do you balance it all, Raabiha? I'm like, what? Like, do I look like I'm balancing? I'm juggling. And I keep coming across the same analogies, like, the cup, and I'm sure you know about the cups, which ones you can pour into, the balls, which ones are rubber, which ones are glass. And if you let them go, they will break. You have to decide which are which at what time. But in your book, when I was coming across it, you talk about asking whether we're juggling to find a balance. Is there a simple exercise that people on the listening to the podcast could kind of figure out, like, okay, can we find out if we're in a juggling phase, or are we actually balancing it all? Like, how do people know whether they've got the balance or they're just juggling? I have a feeling it's drowning.
Yeah. Well, in my book, Women Who Want More, it's the last chapter, and I talk about yourself. Imagine there's a petal, and so obviously, the petal's still in the ground, right? So it's got this stalk and it's got these beautiful petals, and each one of these petals are different aspects of your life. It may be your personal life, your health, your spiritual and personal development, your career, your finances, your social life. So balance is not about sitting in the middle of that petal looking pretty. Balance is not about I've had burnout and therefore I've got to retreat and can't do anything anymore because I've got to stay in the middle of this petal, because if I step out, I'm going to have burnout again and therefore I can't do it, which unfortunately is often what happens.
They do, yeah.
The only trick with balance is that we want you to step onto those petals, move onto those petals happily. But the difference is if you go to the very end of one petal, because there are going to be phases in life where you're more concentrated on your children and other times when you're more concentrated on your career, and other times when you're like, let's go for health. Of course there are. That is a balanced life. It doesn't mean everything has to be equal. But if you go too far out onto just one petal, what happens? It bends, and then the stalk breaks. And when the stalk breaks, there's no water to get up there to keep the rest of you alive, right? So so understanding what that picture of balance is. That balance doesn't have to be everything in equal measures. But then the other thing I would do is like the most simple exercise, which we always do with the first thing because I teach people to become coaches and mentors. So the first thing I do with these people is I teach them the wheel of life. So the wheel of life, it's eight pieces of a pie, right? And each thing has a number. So, and it's rated 1 to 10. So you rate 2 numbers. One is how fulfilled are you in this aspect of your life? And the other is where would you like to be? Because you might actually feel fulfillment at 8 out of 10, which case you don't need to be thinking about that. And once you've done that, it just allows you to let go of the need, because so often, I think particularly for mothers and high professional mothers, we always think we should, right?
Yeah.
There's this feeling of, well, I should be able to do this and I should be doing this. You expect to be Supermom. You expect to be Wonder Woman. You expect to...
I hate that. I hate that Superwoman.
Fantastic suit, right? I mean, come on.
I hate that thing.
You expect to be that, and yet you don't have to be that. You just have to be you. You have to be you for what you truly want in your life. So stop trying to be somebody else, because all those other people are taken.
Yeah.
But then you have to understand who you are. So ask yourself, why do I want to be 10 out of 10? Because you might not need to be, but you might just think you want to be. So, if I tell you like another one of my stories, my wake up was. So when I used to wonder, like, where did the whole high achievement come from? And in this journey after my illness, I had to strip back the layers. I had to face some demons, some massive demons from my past, stuff I thought I had dealt with. So when I was 12 through to the age of 14, I was sexually abused by my grandfather. And then I buried it. It's like my mother's dad, and he was staying with us for 6 months. And I buried it completely until I was then in my 20s. And my mum had wanted me to go to Bahrain to go and do my elective, 3rd, 4th year dental school or whatever. And that's when this sense of like panic and stuff started to come over. And of course, it all came flooding back. And I had to tell my mum. And at that point, I used to have no voice whatsoever. So, I told her, and of course she believed me, but I couldn't give her details. It was literally words like stuttering over themselves to try and explain what had happened. And I just couldn't. I could barely get it out. And and since then, and I had other things. Like I told my dad, my darling dad, who I love to pieces. My mother died when I was 24, when I was still in dental schools. Another wake up call, because I lost all my foundation. This one person in my life who I loved, who was the one person who truly saw me and loved me. And then I felt responsible for her death, because I caused this stress. She got cancer and she died. And I carried all of this guilt. I had my brother and my sister, and everybody would go and greet my grandfather and kiss him. And it's like, what about me? Who's standing up for me? Like, there was this child that was abused, and yet no one's standing up for her. And even my dad is saying, oh, Rana, he's a sick man, as opposed to, don't you want to just go and punch this man's lights out? Yeah. So there's this huge amount of forgiveness. So I'd carried all of this emotional weight subliminally in my body. So when I went back to thinking, okay, like, why am I the way I am? Why am I this wanaholic, right? This need for achievement all the time. It was realizing that inside, I didn't have love for myself. But we think we love ourselves, right? I had a lot of forgiving to do. I had a lot of self-forgiving to do. This stuff is so multi-layered. And I needed to learn to love myself. So, of course, because I didn't, I was an overachiever because I had this prover gremlin. Because if on the outside, I proved to everybody how successful I was, how, I could never get anything other than a grade A, how I could excel in dental school, both academically and socially, how I could be this amazing person and then this pioneering periodontist and then this award-winning practice owner, then no one would see the self-hatred and self-loathing I actually had inside. Outside, I was an achiever, so everyone else, surely you would love me if I was like that, not realizing that I didn't actually love myself. But the purpose for that story is to recognize, ask yourself, what is it I have to prove? Because it's going to come back from something in life, like in your lifestyle. And so many of us got children of dentists, for heaven's sake. There's so many of it is, oh, my child needs to be, a doctor, dentist, or lawyer, the classic kind of Asian or Arabic, phrases. So where has your belief system come from that is pushing you to strive, that is pushing you to be a high achiever? I mean, of course, it came from within me. I can't do anything by halves, like you said. It's kind of like, no, if I do something, I've got to get a 10 out of 10.
Go hard or go home.
When you work on that forgiveness process, you start to be able to be forgiving about not being perfect, and you start to be able to let go.
So many dentists say that. I'm a perfectionist. Whenever you ask them, like when I interview, so what's like your flaw or weakness? Oh, I'm a perfectionist. Every freaking dentist.
But it's a gremlin, right? It is a default. You could be the controller, you could be the pleaser, you could be the perfectionist. They are all archetypes that show up in situations of stress that do not serve you. So you've got to ask yourself, where has it come from?
What was the facet? Controller, please.
8 different archetypes. So you might be a controller, you might be a perfectionist, you might be the fixer, you might be the pleaser. So this book is called Positive Intelligence.
I'm gonna have to read that.
And he talks he's got these 8 archetypes, and then you talk about the sage. And the idea is, from a mental point of view, we're changing these archetypes that hold us back into our own sage through positive intelligence. So positive intelligence really is just one little application of well-being to do with becoming mindful. But those archetypes are really interesting. But the thing is, ask yourself, where has your need to achieve or to be perfect or to be the person who can do it all, where has it come from?
I think that's one of the things when I was reading was you talk a lot about self-awareness in your book. So one is obviously asking yourself certain questions, but are there other ways, possibly simpler ways, for us to develop this self-awareness? Because I think that's probably the start of helping us be that balanced petal.
Well, it is. I mean, it is 100%. You have to know yourself. Self-awareness is about consciousness. The more conscious you become, the more you're in a position to choose.
We're on autopilot, so we're not conscious, aren't we?
Always. We're reacting, not responding. So actually, when you become a greater leader, when you become more successful, when you learn to be truly in flow, you're not using excess energy. You're in line with your energy, which means you've got endless amounts of energy to go. The analogy might be, you're surfing a wave instead of standing there with a load of waves crashing at you and still determined to get through the water.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. When you're an optimal performer, you're surfing the wave. When you are conscious, when you're a conscious being, that's exactly what you're doing, because you are not reacting, you are responding, because you become aware of everything. So your question was, what can we do besides asking questions? The thing is, it's so funny because all the questions you were asking me are all about quick hacks. And the thing is, there isn't.
Because they're high-achieving women ain't got time.
No,
I
don't have time. But that's coming from a stress state. I can recognize it in people's language, that's what we call level 1 energy. That's stress state.
I'm going to send you a screenshot of my ring stats from our call. It's going to give me the answers.
People say, I don't have time, then I know you're coming from a place of lack.
Okay, give me the long way. Give me the long self-awareness way.
More than enough time for what's important.
This is true. My
So
husband always says your body doesn't give a shit that you don't have time, because he's a physio and a chiropractor. And I'm like, I
right.
don't have time to exercise. And he was like, your body doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, if you exercised, you would perform so much better. So it's about it for time, it's about learning to reprioritize, right? How the hell do you get everything done in one day? You get it done by deciding, what is my bigger purpose? And therefore, in all of the stuff I have to do today, what are the top 3 things that I have to get done, that are priorities, that are in line with my purpose? Because you may also say, what can I delegate? But if you achieve those top 3 things that are in line with the bigger picture, you're going to go to bed feeling a hell of a lot better. So there aren't any quick wins. Like you have to understand your values. You have to do a values assessment to say, if these are my values, how much of them are they showing up every day? So if you have a value of health and you're not exercising, then is it any wonder that you're actually feeling a bit rubbish because you're going against something that's really important to you? And vice versa. If you don't have a value of, let's think of something to do with work. I was thinking about like writing up notes and stuff like that. If you don't have a value of perfectionism and high standards, and yet you're having to force yourself to do that all day long, then you're going against your grain. So in terms of quick hacks, the first thing to do is to understand you. And I remember when I first started with a coach, which was before I had this breakdown, it was a different wake-up call of like, it was when I got divorced and I thought, okay, you know what, maybe it's finally time to sort myself out. And my coach was great, but I remember her saying, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a deep dive into understanding who Rana is. And for me, that was like a warm blanket being put over me, because I was like, you know what, yeah, because actually I haven't actually got a clue. No one has ever paid that much attention to me to make me realize that. So do it. Quick hack is do a values exercise, engage in gratitude every day, because that forces you to do a mindful practice. And I usually recommend engaging in gratitude not in a list, because if you do it in a list, you're in your head. Okay. And gratitude is a feeling.
Like, yeah, I do that. Or 1, 2, 3.
Yes, because then you're in your head. And actually, gratitude is a feeling that you have to have. If you want the health benefits and the manifestations of gratitude, you need to feel the gratitude. So you need to let it flow. I mean, I have a book. Sometimes I do it in the morning. I used to do it before at night. Now it's my ritual in the morning. I get up, so I'll wake up 15 minutes earlier than anybody else needs me in the house. Kids, lifts, blah, 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 blah. So no one's going to interrupt that time. Pick up my book, write, and I will write. For me, I write 2 pages, but even if you just wrote half a paragraph about everything you are grateful about and why. And then if you want to manifest, you're writing about what it is you want to achieve. So for me, thank you so much for all the fun quality time I have with my children, and for their health and for their successes, and for the time we get to spend together, and for their support of me and for my support of them, and the peace and the love and the enjoyment that we have. It's not always like that, but I'm writing it as if it's already happened. So the same with career goals. So you're manifesting through your gratitude, because when you're writing it, you're engaging in the feeling as if it's already happened. So that also starts to make you a little bit conscious, because you start to become conscious of what it is you desire. And a lot of people lack clarity in what it is they truly want. If I ask you what you want, you're going to be very good at telling me what you don't want. But what do you really, really want? Suddenly it's like, oh, I'm not so sure. When I used to coach one-to-one, I mean, I don't do that much of it anymore, because most of it is speaking, webinars and group training, and then my team then coach and mentor. But occasionally, if someone like really begs me, my challenge to them is like, how much do you really want this? And how much work are you truly, truly willing to do? And I gauge it, like, are you committed 10 out of 10? And if they are, it's like, okay, great. And then it's like, and then I assess, okay, like, how much can you do on your own, and how much do you need me to actually push you? Because I used to have like worksheets after worksheets of stuff where you can, and even my book, Women Who Want More, it's got worksheets, it's got meditation.
I can't wait to listen to that.
It's got all this stuff that you can use to help yourself. And the thing is, just pick one thing. Start somewhere. You can't wake up the next day and be a different person, right? Think of it like orthodontics. We don't put the appliances on and their teeth have instantly moved, do we?
Yeah. Unless you did it wrong, but yeah.
Then you're in big trouble and they're all falling out. So, all you could do, we see tiny incremental changes, right? Every week, and then they look back 1 week later, and then by the time we've got to a year, they don't even remember how bad it was. But you've got the photographs to prove it. And then what do they have to do? They have to wear retainers, right?
Yeah.
So you have to stretch the band long enough and then keep it that way to really, truly change. I do not recognize the person I was that many years ago. I'm a much calmer person. I used to be very angry, used to be very quick to like lose my temper. Even my kids are like, oh my, you're like this different person now. You're just so calm. You're so chill. Even when we're half an hour late, you don't scream at us when we get in the car. But it comes with time. What I would say though is every time you have a win, every time you go against your habits, every time you do something different, every time you honor yourself, every time you learn to say no, every time you stand up for yourself, every time you do something that you truly want to do, acknowledge it. Because it's too easy when you're so busy to go through life blinkered. So when you do that, I mean, today, I give myself a virtual pat on the back. Well done, Rana. That's great that you did that, because you've got to reinforce the behavior.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times high achievers, we just kind of go to the next project. Great, that one's done. Next, and it just becomes like a junky thing, really, and not
100%.
saying well done.
And even on birthdays and stuff like that, right? Even in personal life, it's like, oh yeah, that was great. That's fine. Next thing, even with our kids. My God, I'm so busy. Okay, I've got to get the cake and I've got to organize this party and I've got to invite these people. And then we have the event and we don't really enjoy it. We just make sure everyone else was happy. We don't really have that much fun ourselves. And then everybody goes away and then it's like, okay, that's great. That next thing. Like I make a habit now. If my kids say, can I talk to you about something? Yes, of course. But give me 5 minutes because I know I can't give you my best attention right now. Yeah. And then once I'm ready for them, I'm like, okay, I am 100% yours, because
rather than multitasking and not doing either well.
Is at least you're least productive that way. It's lack of productivity. But what are our kids really going to remember? They're not going to remember the presents.
No.
They're going to remember how we made them feel. They're going to remember how loved they felt and how much attention we paid them. That's what they're going to remember. But that's part of the priority, right? Why did we bring them into this world in the first place? Because we have 18 years of guardianship, and that's all it is. But we have a gift there. We have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to bring light into the world through our children, to allow them to have the opportunities maybe we didn't, to allow them to step into this world and create impact and purpose and give something back. But we need to pay attention to that as well.
I think for a lot of busy moms, I've always come, and when I talk to them, I always say it's shifting that mindset from I have to I get to where I want to. Sometimes it can feel like, oh my God, I have to take the kids to school and I have to cook dinner, I have to do this. But it's like, well, actually you don't. It's this concept that I've been exploring with my coach about being free. And we kind of mentioned it on the call earlier that you don't have to actually cook them dinner. You don't have to take them to school. And then I would turn around saying to him, actually, but I want to do these things and they do bring me joy. And it's changing how we say things and then how we take it and how we absorb it, how we manifest and how we feel about it.
Exactly, because the I have to is a stress state. It's a stress free. We're feeding our self-beliefs, we're feeding our mindset, we're feeding our stress. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I mean, doesn't it drive you mad? Like, it's classic, isn't it? Okay, I'm going out for the night. And you're talking to your husband or your partner. I'm going out for the night. Are you sure you're going to be okay? Are you sure you're going to be able to feed the kids? Is everything all right? And then we go out guiltily, right? And okay, I better check my phone. I better keep the phone on the table in case they need me. And then you come home and you realize there's been zero drama. There's like takeaway boxes that haven't even been put away. The place is a pigsty. And yet everybody's happy.
Yes.
And for us as mothers, we then get even more annoyed and frustrated because we're like, why didn't you clear up and why have you given them junk to eat? And blah, 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 blah. But you know what? They had a good time. So maybe they have it right and we have it wrong.
True that.
So, so some of it is that. It's actually, it's giving yourself some forgiveness. It's maybe you don't have to do it all. Maybe you could think about an au pair or a nanny or some home help, or we're fortunate enough to be in a profession that is well paid. Could we stretch the finances in some way?
Yeah, that was a hard pill to swallow for me to accept help, actually. I had this chat with somebody else on a podcast with Fazila, and she's like, we feel weak asking for help. Like, no, I can do this. I made this kid. This is my house. I can do the cleaning. I can do the cooking, but actually we don't have to. And there's no medal in it.
Look at it at work. Do you want to run? Are you in charge of all the, you might own your own practice, right? Are you in charge of all of the compliance, all of the payroll, all of the policies and procedures and HR and annual leave, or do you delegate it? It's your business, but you're happy to pass that on to someone else. So yes, it's your house and they're your children. How great would it be if you actually passed on the mundane stuff and got to do the fun stuff the same way as in dentistry, you get to treat your patients? What's the difference, really?
Yeah, I think it's just the mindset, really. I feel like we're still in that, like we as a generation are still in that generation where we've kind of either saw mums or were told that us women, our jobs are like the kids and the house. And then now you can work as well. So you can also do the business, the male jobs. So that means we can do everything, cleaning, cooking, like we can be the mum, we can do the work. It's not possible. These are a bajillion jobs. Being a mum alone is 50 different jobs.
Yeah, and you never switch off. You never really get to switch off. You have this massive decision fatigue because you're constantly even when I got divorced, I was still making all the decisions and still organizing my kids' lives, but just remotely when they weren't with me.
Yeah.
And you get to this point where you don't know how much more you can do. I mean, for me, this summer, I had the double whammy of A-levels and GCSEs as well. And then obviously we had university applications, sixth form applications. It was like, okay, right, this year, kids become the priority. Only that wasn't it, because then we had all the launch of all the other stuff with Breeze Dental Wellness and everything just took off and just became insane. But I knew I'd made that commitment to myself to be that priority for my kids that year. But because I am a different person now, I did manage to do it all.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do, yes. And I, exactly, pat on the back, pat on the shoulder, did it. But you just said it yourself, right? You said generationally we grow up to believe this. So challenge the belief. Put any belief on the palm of your hand and decide, is this true or is this truth? True is a universal true. Truth is your truth. Do you want this as your truth? What's going to happen? What's the worst that's going to happen? What's going to happen if you're a disruptor? What's going to happen if you decide to do something differently to the way your parents did or the way your society or your social groups do? Who's in your bubble? Who really counts? Put those people in that circle and just say, these are the people whose opinions matter the most. And if they're not in your bubble, who cares? But you have to be willing to change the belief.
Yeah. Is that how, because I know, you talk about kind of not having to let things go. You can just almost integrate more. You can live more fulfilled life in your health, family, relationships, kind of across all life domains. So is that kind of the test that you use to be able to integrate more? Because sometimes, I know, especially me, I feel like I'm failing at everything at times. Like I'm maybe not a good enough mom or a good enough business owner or a good enough boss or a wife, or all my jobs. Sometimes I feel like I'm like here, but I know you talk about being able to bring them all up, right? So how?
This is the ability to go with the flow, because at the moment you're trying everything from a state of stress. Your vocabulary is, I don't have time, I must, I should, I have to. So part of it is mindset. But I mean, actually, it's the entire nail it formula. There is no quick fix. Like the L is for limitlessness. So that's all about how you change your limiting beliefs and become stress-free and fearless. But then the I is all about integrity, which is the valuable being blueprint. It's like you've got to look at your values, your authenticity, your leadership, your understanding, your behavior, your legacy, your excitement, your ambition, attitude, which is the A in Nail It. It's actually, there's 4 S's there. I think it's like strength. So everything to do with resilient, moving forward. So that's like your classic mindset type stuff. And your self-talk, which so much we keep bringing that back up about what are you telling yourself? What are your beliefs? Smile, being solution focused, so shifting your outlook. Are you an optimist? Are you a pessimist? Where are you genetically? The N, honoring your needs. That's the N in Nail It. The Kickstart Wellbeing framework. What are your needs? And then how can you express them? What are the boundaries you can put in place? How can you train your emotional intelligence? What's your intuition like? We talk about women being brilliant at intuition. Well, intuition is actually just tuning in. Everybody can do it, but you have to create silence for that. So there's silence, there's trust, there's recognition, there's
no silence in my life, Rana.
exactly. And then there's creating connection. And it's only that you then get to the bit you're talking about, which is the T, which is tangibility. That's when you truly get to achieve. When you've laid down all of these foundations, that's when you can achieve. The T becomes like success in every aspect of your life and highly successful.
Can I ask how long it took for you to do this transformation? Because I'm hearing it and I'm like, this is a lot. So
It's a lot.
which is
And
good.
this is why it's like it's take one segment at a time, but it's just so comprehensive. So for me, after that illness, then actually the first thing I started doing was meditating. And I'd been like a really deeply spiritual person, but I'd hidden that because my husband just completely disapproved of any of that. So I couldn't be myself around him. I had to hide that side because he used to ridicule it all the time. So I started meditating and tuning into that. So that probably then forced the silence to see the benefits of that. I recognized that actually I was better when I exercised. So then I brought in the exercise. We had a coach, right? So I already knew what I should be doing, but I started to listen to my self-talk. So now I have no must, shoulds, have tos. There is never a problem. There's never a mistake. Everything is an opportunity. Everything is learning. But I shift into it so automatically because I've practiced it.
Practice. Yeah.
You practice it all day long. So you become it, a human being, not a human doing. So how long did it take? It was a gradual process. But if I think that was 2017, then 2018, I trained to be a coach and I wrote my book. So let's call it a year.
That was a year? That's not as long as I was thinking.
But you got to want it. It's faster when you have a coach who helps you, right? Because then you can't hide. You need a coach to help pull you and also find the issues and draw them out of you, because you're so ingrained with this self-belief system. Half the time you don't realize the stuff that's hiding underneath. And that's the strength of a good coach. They're going to find it and they're going to draw it out of you and they're going to challenge you with that.
This is the thing, sometimes, I guess it's how badly you want it, right? Like,
it's how badly you want it. It's back to the heart disease, right? Yeah, that will happen eventually.
Until something forces you, right? Because thinking, I was like, I know a lot of women who know this stuff, like myself, similarly. Like, we know about the should, would, self-talk. We know about the exercise, the need for silence, but then it's like putting it into practice. It's like people would say, I know I should stop smoking. So how do you, I know there's no magic formula, but how do you switch? How do you create that switch from having all the knowledge to actually going to action?
So the action is implemented slowly, tiny, like the whole thing we said, like tiny steps at a time. And every time you do that tiny step, congratulate yourself. So like I said, if you have to start somewhere, start with your gratitude practice and then start with your wins. And usually when you're in that lower state, when you're in that very stressed state, I would always get you to start with something like a judgment journal, because that's something that drains our energy massively. And we don't realize how much we're judging all the time. You're judging yourself. You're judging yourself for not being good enough. So it's all about self-awareness, right? And journals now don't have to be writing in a book. You can voice it into your phone. Most of them even have journal apps that you can do. You can literally just voice it. But what you have to do is you have to start recognizing the patterns of behavior. It's like, actually, you know what? I didn't realize that I made like 20, 30 judgments in a day. And then when you reflect on each one of those judgments, what has it actually cost you? And if you hadn't made that judgment, what might have happened otherwise? Because what we're doing is we're trying to, energy cannot be created or destroyed, right? It can only be converted from one form to another.
My physics coming back there. Yes, you're right.
Right. And essentially that's all we're doing. We're turning the stress energy, the anger energy, the fix it energy, the I need to clone myself energy and I have to do everything energy into the, hey, everything is great. I've got this all. I'm like an eagle gliding through the sky and I can see every single potential issue and I know exactly how to solve it and answers come to me instantly and I can delegate here and I can say that doesn't need to be done and I've totally got this. And so you're just transferring energy. But first you have to recognize what the energy is costing you. So like I said, judgment journal, gratitude, celebrating wins. They're really, really good ways. Find yourself an accountability buddy. So when you just say you're going to do something, if you actually announce it to the world, it's like with any habit change, if you actually tell
I do
someone.
that on my social media sometimes. Like,
Brilliant.
guys, I'm going to exercise. And then I'm like, yeah, this now I have to because people are expecting me
And
to
now
exercise.
you have to like set yourself a 30-day challenge and make it, then you, so that you have to be accountable in some ways. When you write down your goals and then when you tell and announce your goals, you are, I think it's something like 30% more successful in those goals. When you have accountability, you're 60% more successful in those goals.
Oh, wow.
It's 63%. So doing little things like that you've got to stretch the elastic band step by step and just start somewhere. The worst thing is if you think you can adopt and change everything in one day. Look, you can't. You didn't get to
It's like a high achieving women. Like, okay, now I'm going to get better. I'm going to get better today. And I'm going to start everything. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do this. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to have my fiber. I'm going to journal and do my gratitude. It's probably why I keep failing at it.
I'm just going to laugh at you. It's like, just start with one little thing, master that till it becomes part of you, and then bring in the next habit change.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Slow and steady wins the race, like perio-regeneration.
There's me got a picture of a turtle in my head, and you're thinking about perio.
That's what I teach. I remember I used to teach that when I was explaining what we did with lasers, what we do to the outer epithelium. It's to act like a membrane, right, for regeneration, because we've got to block out the epithelium, which is the hair, for the tortoise to win the race, which is slower down for the connective tissue. So yeah, you know what? You're a tortoise, but the tortoise does win the race.
Yes, this is true. I will try to be the tortoise.
And you know, the shell of every tortoise is, every single one of them is
different.
unique.
Yeah.
Right?
This is true.
So you are the tortoise.
Fingerprints.
You are unique, which is why I can't give you a one-size-fits-all formula. I can't wave the magic wand. All I can say is, if you want to change, that's brilliant. So start somewhere. Yeah. And I would always say, yeah, get accountability, get yourself a coach, join a mentoring program, join a circle. You know, that's why you've created Dental Mums Network, right? So you can all help and support each other, which is just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
I can't wait for you to speak. I'm going to be like in your workshop. Hello, Rana, I'm at the back. Maybe at the front I should be. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
How to juggle, aren't we? Exactly. How to deal with the juggling.
I will come and have like, look, guys, I had a podcast with How I Know, okay? We're going to talk about the petal, okay? By the way, I'm going to give this class for you guys. Yeah, no, I'm ready. I'm motivated. I'm going to update you because it's in 9 weeks. So I'll update you on my slow changes that I will make in the next 9 weeks.
Okay, so announce it on this podcast.
I've announced it now.
What is the one change you're going to focus on as of tomorrow?
I know a really big one I've been trying and I have been struggling to do. I can do, and I will make time for is exercise because I think it's going to help me massively. I realized today in basic life support training when it came to the CPR, my cardiovascular fitness is just not there anymore. And I think it'd probably help massively in a lot of things for me is exercise.
Well, you're still in unconvinced state because you keep saying, and I think it's going to be good for me and I think it will help.
I know, but I'm just like, where am I going to make time with my kids and work and the fact that they still wake up in the night? And I'm just like, I can't even wake up before them.
First thing you need to do is change the vocabulary. Instead of I think it's going to be good for me, it's like I know it's good for me.
I know it's going to be good for
and
me.
Then
you guys listening, exercise.
And then you probably need to find a few more extra benefits. That's what we say when we find a limiting belief, we then need to ask for backup. So then you found the new belief, I know it's good for me. Now you need to find the backup to support it. So the backup for you might be, it will mean that I can play with my kids better and I have more energy for them and I can put them to bed and we have much more fun. It will mean that I can, I'm going to protect my body, which means I could do dentistry for longer. It will mean, so you've got to find the backup of what.
I love how your mind can just find all that positivity so quickly.
Yeah. So you've got to find the backup because otherwise I think it will be good for me. Not going to keep it going. It's that I know it's good for me and this is why, because then you get the backup to reinforce it. And then for you, you don't have time. My God, at the I think it was actually some team building I did for foundation dentists, and then at we spoke at the BDIA conference, the dental industry conference as well. I was on stage. I had the audience going up and down off a chair for 60 seconds. That's all you need to do for your cardio fitness. You sit on your chair now. Now you literally stand up, sit down for 60 seconds. Surely you could do that 5 times a day.
My
1
brain
minute.
sometimes thinks I'm rollerblading because I'm just running after my twins in the house picking up stuff. So I sometimes feel like I'm doing exercise, but I know it's not the kind of exercise my body needs.
So
a bit more weights
sitting up and standing down, it's HIIT training, right? It's going to work your quads, your glutes, your hamstrings, the balance, your core. Use your arms as you're coming up and down as well. So you're going to create strength work and massive cardiovascular fitness by doing as many as you can in 1 minute. And psychologically, with HIIT training, high intensity interval training, if you know you've only got to go for 1 minute, you're going to do it more often, and you'll gain 6 years of your life.
Well, that was motivational enough for me. I'm going to start that HIIT tonight. Okay, I like that.
1 minute, that's all it is. And so the thing is, it's not going to be realistic to say to you, go and do half an hour of exercise as of tomorrow, or find an hour, because at the moment your life is just too busy. So you've got to find ways to integrate a habit. So I challenge you to 60 seconds. Start with 60 seconds tomorrow, and then the next day add another minute.
Okay, I like that. I'll do that.
You're going to take up the challenge?
Yes, I'll take that challenge. And I think hopefully my listeners will take that challenge too.
Okay.
That's a good challenge. There's another thing I think I wanted to ask you, actually. It was around boundaries. So I think a lot of achieving women struggle with this, because we'll be like, okay, I'm going to calm down, I'm going to do less things, or I'm going to do this. And somehow we find ourselves back in that wormhole where we're doing 100 more projects and constantly cramming things into our diaries. So I don't know if you have any advice around setting boundaries and how to do that consistently. Not like 1 week, great boundaries, I've got, balance, and the next week somehow I've crammed a bajillion things into my diary. So I don't know if you some advice around that.
Absolutely, yeah. And then we're back to the women who want more book, because there's a whole chapter in there on boundaries. So
I can't wait.
It's really, but it's just so important, isn't it? So the boundary, I set an exercise called building the fences, but still being able to see. So the thing is like, maybe think if there's something that you want, like it's something that you want, and where you're where you need a boundary, but then go out in either direction. So also in that boundary, determine what it is what the most optimal is, and what it is you are prepared to tolerate. So you split it, because actually, and often like with burnout, people say put boundaries in place, but sometimes the boundaries are just too strong, and then they're just not in alignment with you. Yeah. So what would a win-win situation truly look like? Like, what will you not accept? What will you accept? And what could a win-win actually be? So again, I'm sorry, it's another sit down and think about it. It needs a bit of time and write down. It doesn't come instantly. The best 3-letter word is yet, because then when you say I can't do it, or I don't have time, add the word yet onto the end of any sentence. It's the best 3-letter word. The best 2-letter word, of course, is no, right? So when you say no, we've got the pat on the back. So you reinforce the behavior. And then when it comes to setting boundaries, it's about understanding exactly what your priorities are, right? We're back to, what is my priority at this stage in my life? Is it my health? Is it my children? Is it my work? What's the worst that can happen if I don't do this?
What happens if all 3 of them are my priorities?
Right, but we've come back, and our husbands, partners have managed to look after the kids, and they're not stressed, right? So what is the worst thing that would have happened if you didn't clean up that particular night? Even though I get it, honestly, I do, because I had OCD. I mean, look, I would be late for events because there's a teacup on the counter and I can't possibly leave it there. I have to go and wash it and put it in the dishwasher.
Okay.
Can you imagine then having 3 children?
God, yeah. I've got 3 in, and we don't worry about the teacup anymore. We don't even worry about the toys on the floor anymore.
No, exactly. You find a way, right? You find a way to adapt, to tolerate, and to let things go. So when you're setting boundaries, ask yourself, what is my true priority here? So for me, every time I still say no, like I color code my diary, and I make sure that my calendar has enough of a blend of those colors. And if I have tasks I need to do, I put them into the diary. Like, okay, right, you've got to write this article for private dentistry here, and you've got to write these articles here, and you've got a load of media to do there, and you've got to fit in some clients, and you've got to do some development work. So I already put it in the diary instead of thinking there's empty space. So then when someone needs a phone call or this, that, and the other, I've got time for. I put my clinical days in my diary. I put my lunch break in another color code. Holidays are another color code. Spiritual development are a color code. Self-care, personal meetings. They're all different colors that then jump out at me. So I've got it's automatically jumping out at me that actually everything is balanced. But also it stops me putting stuff in because I've actually color coded that block is already full with the other things that I needed to do, like spend time with my family, Saturday night movie night, popcorn.
Yeah,
I promised
Friday
my son
night
I'm going to
movie
take
night.
him to the climbing wall. It's already in the diary. So as tempting as I am to like, oh yeah, actually I could flex that. It's like, no, I put it in the diary. I made him a promise. It's not going. That becomes a boundary because I've made that commitment.
I like the color coding concept. Like I've got lots of stuff in my diary now because that helps just putting in the diary. But then I can see a little bit of white space and I'm like, oh, let's put something. Oh, you need a meeting. You want to talk to me? Of course. I got this little 15-minute space when I'm driving to work. I could just fit you in there. But yeah, I feel like I need to do less. Less is more. But I feel like sometimes more is more. So
that's it. It's when you learn to surf the wave, you get more by doing less. I mean, I don't think I've ever worked so hard in my life at the moment, even though I do much less clinical work. And yet I'm still I'm flying high. I have energy every single day.
That makes me so happy for you.
But my kids are a little bit older. But it's because I'm being my true self and I'm in complete alignment, not using force.
Beautiful. That is beautiful.
Got to give yourself that pat on the back.
No, thank you. No, thank you, Rana. I feel like this has been a very, very insightful podcast. I think people have got to know me a bit better and realize that they need Rana as their coach in life because you are freaking fantastic. And if you want to hear her speak, then definitely come out on the 24th. And I need to get this book, so I can't wait to listen to it. Maybe I should get the hard copy as well so I can like highlight it. I miss doing that.
We left spaces in that book on purpose to allow you to directly write into it. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I'll get the physical copy and I'm going to start my HIIT exercises. If you want to leave my listeners with one piece of advice, you've given the whole freaking podcast is like advice, but I mean your favorite piece of advice, what would that be, Rana? What do you want to end on?
You know, it's 2 words and it's be you. And if I had to expand on what I mean by that, it's about when you learn to actually truly be yourself without a care in the world of what people think of you. And you think about what do you want in your life and how can you truly be yourself? Because we're on this earth for our own soul's journey, our own soul's fulfillment. So you need to feed that soul. And that means the only way you can do that is to truly be you. So take a deep dive into understanding that. And that really is what will set you free.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Such a pleasure.
Oh, honestly, I feel like I've just had like a whole wake-up call.